Okay, so here are the aces. I'm going to obviously have to go through this a lot more quickly now. But here are the aces. They don't necessarily have, you know, where you would think maybe tentacles with the cups and maybe bird claws with the swords. So he seems to, and I checked in the guidebook, he doesn't talk directly about why he chose those particular things. We definitely have a feel of reaching out of some animal reaching out to the different symbols here, even with the snake here reaching for the sword. Kind of creepy little hands here, although they're just, you know, they're animal claws. So these are also, aces are borderless, so they would certainly really stand out in a reading from the other cards as well. So I just wanted to real quickly show all of those outward. I'm going to put these in the order that I do things, which is fire, air, water, and earth, because I'm going to try to go through the rest of these a little quicker. Of course, the major arcana are major archetypes here. And I know, you know, this is going to be one of the longer ones, but it's okay. That's okay. You can fast forward and or not watch. So here we have the Ace of Wands. Here we have the Two of Wands, the lightning struck antenna. Very interesting, but you see the power of sort of the ground, you know, these two things that are kind of grounded together, and so the beginnings of plans like that. Here we have a Three of Wands, creative bone prism. You can see some sacred geometry behind there, as well as the bones. We have the beautiful Four of Wands, the beaming vessel. We have all of these, you know, it's like you're underneath the water, and you see this group here of sea turtles just swimming in joy. They've made it thus far. We do see a little bit of see-through nature, sort of x-ray nature here, with the bones kind of peeking through there. But there is a joyousness, and I have to say it makes me think of, what is somebody has to tell me, but with the lightning shooting out, the light shooting out of both, it makes me think of, it's Godzilla, and there is the spinning, Ghidorah? No. Somebody tell me in the comments. But he's like a turtle, and he has light coming out, and he spins around in circles in the Godzilla movies. But there is that sense of, you know, the Four of Wands being that energy of kind of making it to a certain place in which you can kind of celebrate together, and we can certainly see that here. You'll see that the minors have a different border. Let's see. Well, no, not all of them. So some of them have it below, like here. This one has it across the front. So there's varying ways of doing the border, which is how you get that really cool look. Like, this just makes me happy. Anyways, I think it gives you the idea of celebration without having the Four Wands that you normally see, or the four poles sticking up there. Here we have the Five of Wands, the jagged, or the jagged union. I mean, this definitely looks prickly. You normally see people fighting, but this is a prickly situation. There could be still a lot of power that is inherently in this card, but it is prickly, right? You're going to have to really be careful on how you navigate this energy. Six of Wands. This is the Goliath hive. I wonder why it's called that. That's kind of interesting. Let's take a peek. This does have a 6 down here, where other ones do not have anything on them. So you do see a little bit of a variety. I'm generally not a fan of that. Like, if you're going to have a banner like that with a number very obvious on it, I would kind of want that in all of the cards. But maybe he just absolutely loves this card, since he's calling it the Goliath. Let me find it, since I did go out of order. Of course, you also have that as sort of, it's the Six of Wands. So you could have that as sort of that, you know, you've really accomplished what you want to accomplish, success and triumph, a healthy, thriving beehive, celebrating your victory, but you know, you still got to keep working. So yeah, that could just be more the banner, because this is a sense of celebration and achievement that you have here. It's a beautiful image. Love this. Absolutely love this. The determined otter. It's beautiful. Beautiful. I promised I would keep going a little bit quicker here. Here we have the Eight of Wands. Again, a typical motion that we see with the Eight of Wands in the Rider-Waite-Smith, but here we have like comets raining down and opportunities and what's going to happen, and this is a kind of a dawning of a new age, so to speak, and all that kind of the energy, I think, is very much Eight of Wands. The Nine of Wands, here we have the dark before the dawn. I think that's a beautiful title. I think it's a beautiful representation. I love that many of the cards do have a very pip-like feel to them. Obviously, some then do have creatures in them and more scenic, so to speak. But I do really love these. Nine of Wands. The Ten of Wands says the overburdened beetle. But you know what? He can carry it. He's strong and he can hold it. So I quite like that, because for me, the Ten of Wands is the culmination of the suit of wands. So yes, it's a lot of wand energy, but you can put one foot in front of the other. You can hold it. It's a weight, but you can hold it. And you certainly get the sense here with this beetle. Here we have the gorgeous Page of Wands, the moonscaped messenger. It's like a carrier pigeon having to navigate in the night, but is going to be able to. Look at his face. The kind-hearted moose for the Knight of Wands. Look at the little birds. You don't get a lot of motion sense. Like usually, obviously, knights have a very motion. This feels a little bit more motion-oriented. But boy, do I love his face. The Queen of Wands, the Cosmic Huntress, is gorgeous. The King of Wands, glowing white stag. The white stag is very powerful energy. I love the use of the lotus, but it's like a spider's web here. That is really gorgeous. There's a lot of power to this image, I think, for me anyways. And so that's the wands. The Ace of Swords we already saw. The Two of Swords is a little rough here. The Blind Seal. That's probably one of the roughest images in terms of why does the seal have candles in its eye sockets. Obviously, it's able to see and navigate regardless of that, but that's definitely, you know, kind of Ten of Swords from the Wild Unknown, unsettlingness. Let me get the Two of Swords. Let's see what he says. In the slightly gruesome depiction of the Two of Swords, we see a female seal, quite a social animal, that has swum far out into the dark sea at night, with only the crescent moon to light her way. She holds two short swords, blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Her eyeballs are missing from their sockets and are instead replaced with two candlesticks, both of which are lit and poking outwards, metaphorically meaning that she is lighting her own way, yet not allowing herself to see what is really there, only what she wants to see. This is a reference to the fact that the eyes are useless if the mind is blind. So that's interesting, right? If your mind is blind, it doesn't really matter what you can see. But if you can see from inward, outward, the strength is there. So I get it. Again, and I prefer it over choosing my optimal worst one being the Ten of Swords in the Wild Unknown, or the Hierophant in the Marielle. So I get the imagery there, but it's definitely more disturbing than I would think of for a Two of Swords. Here we have a Three of Swords, which is in many ways a very traditional Rider-Waite-Smith. Obviously, it has a tree trunk here and all of that, but it's a fairly traditional Three of Swords in the Rider-Waite tradition. Here we have the Four of Swords, sacred space. Just, you know, it's just created this space where this bunny here can just take a moment, which I quite like. It doesn't look like it's dead. It looks like it's just having a moment. Here we have the Five of Swords, the white scorpion and the black scorpion. So we definitely have that sense of battle again, hostilities that's there, some of the brutality that comes, and is it worth, you know, again, very often the Five of Swords has that idea of, you know, winning at what cost. Like you have this large creature going after this smaller creature, although with scorpions, aren't the smaller scorpions often the ones with the most venom? But we also have a disruption and an embattled mind here, which is what this card represents, and I think that it represents that well, even with the rain and this type of thing. Here we have the Six of Swords going from like flames and fire and carrying their nest off somewhere else, although they are kind of heading towards some tornadoes, which is a little scary, but it's about shifting and changing, going into a new position here. It would, for me, it would be better if there wasn't storms in the clouds, but we see the lightning behind that, so if she can steadily go through between those two, she's going to find herself in a better position and a better place. Here we have the Seven of Swords, the Thief in the Night. This I really like, actually, and this is why. Because the Seven of Swords for me is about not knowing the whole situation. What is going, do we really know what's happening in this picture? And so that's for me, when the Seven of Swords comes up, it's that question of what's going on. You think you know what's going on, that this snake has come in here, like Ricky Tikki Tavi kind of snake, and he's stealing the egg here. But you wonder, though, right? This looks like a different kind of egg. Is this a snake egg or some other kind of egg he's putting into the nest so that it has a chance to live? Or is he taking something that he shouldn't be taking? Or is he taking something in order to survive? Snakes eat eggs. That's what they do, right? That doesn't mean that the snake is evil. We kind of put those connotations of good and evil, but a snake eats eggs. It's one of the things that they do. And so it's part of the cycle of life. So there's a lot of ways in all of the Seven of Swords. When you look at that snapshot image of a hand taking swords or somebody crawling out of a window, you don't know what's exactly happening. And so it's a card that, for me, says go deeper and really think about what could be going on here. This card works really well. Look at that, the Eight of Swords, the imprisoned bear. But this bear, look at those eyes. This bear, she is determined. She's even got her hand up, getting ready to push that sword away. Like, this is a bear that is, yes, imprisoned by her own mind, but she's going to break out of it. It almost even looks like she may be under ice, and she's going to have to push up and crack through the ice, but she will. She will. You can just see in those eyes. Look at those beautiful eyes. Nine of Swords, the overwhelmed sea turtle. But, so this, this is another one in Rider-Waite-Smith that I often have problems with because it's the nightmare card. And this is okay for me because the Nine of Swords for me is about overwhelming energy, right? It's about energy bouncing off of the wall, dynamic energy that can be used for good, but it can also be extremely overwhelming. And this is the situation here. This is a ton of energy about to bear down on this sea turtle. At the same time, this is a sea turtle on land. When this water washes over them, if they can ride it out, it's going to take them out into the ocean, which is their natural environment. This one actually works really well for me. I love it. You know me and my Ten of Swords, the barren desert. You know, what can I say? The Ten of Swords, when I get Rider-Waite-Smith style decks, I have to simply deal with it. It's not that I am adverse to shadow, but it is that the number 10 for me is the culmination of its suit. It is that coming full circle in that suit. And so for me, the culmination of the suit of the mind and intellect is not death and despair and deserts and dying. It's having learned some hard lessons, which is where I can go to with this. There's been difficulty and pain along the way, but this one, at least that's standing here, has learned some really hard lessons and is more powerful. Its mind, once it can kind of step through it all, is going to be stronger because of it. So again, it's a pretty typical Ten of Swords, Rider-Waite-Smith. Nothing wrong with it. That is the Ten of Swords in the Rider-Waite-Smith. I just read numerologically a little bit differently. So this is one of my frustration points. But again, I can deal with this better because there is the one standing and bowed down, yes, by the weight of all that he's learned. And definitely difficult situations there that I've gotten. But the sky is also lighter, and you know, it's that kind of coming full circle and has learned a lot through all of the difficulties. So I can actually work with that one. Here we have the Page of Swords, the sword-bearing sister. Here we have the hooded brother. So that's really interesting. This is the mongoose and the snake again makes me think of the Rikki Tikki Tavi. I wonder if he has read Rikki Tikki Tavi or saw it as a child. Beautiful Queen of Swords. I don't know what this says though. I'm not sure what it says. I will say that the font's a little bit difficult to read sometimes. Again, all I really need to know is that it's the Queen of Swords, the Baroque Queen. Sharp mind. Yes, very sharp mind. Very strong, forward thinker, but prefers to be more alone in her home life and privacy. His parent was so true. You know. And anyways, beautiful Queen of Swords. Again, his creation of eyes is really powerful. This is a difficult one, right? This is the King of Swords. Now, I will say visually, this almost looks like a photograph, like a blurry photograph. It kind of stands out, not being as sharp as especially as this. But you know, he's like he's like an owl, a male owl that's off in the shadows, so that he can reach down and snatch what he needs to reach. Again, because we have this. In the world of nature is difficult. Animals eat animals, right, folks? You know, they don't all run around singing Kumbaya together. There is the circle of life, right? There is a circle of life that's going on here, and there is something that is very cold and clean sometimes and pure about nature that isn't all love and light, that understands the cycle and the nature of things. And so obviously this is a King of Swords, Father of the Night, that kind of is stepped aside from emotions and is going very clearly, seeing very clearly. So for him, he doesn't look at this white mouse and think about the white mouse Bernard. Is it Bernard from the Rescuers and Disney movie, right? This is a meal that's going to feed him and his mate and perhaps his owlets that he has back at home. So it's quite powerful. Visually, again, it's kind of weird or disruptive to my head just because everything has been so sharp. But there is that sense of coming out of the shadows. It also makes me think a little bit of that one really creepy movie. I can't think of it, where there was this thing that would just come out all of a sudden. But there's that idea that, you know, we can't see this clearly until it is up on our face and it's a little bit too late. Ace of Cups, again, a little bit creepy animal hands there. I don't know what kind of hands those are supposed to be. They're slightly creepy. I could also go with mermaids there. Here we have the Two of Cups. This is a powerful Two of Cups. There are some cards in here, like say the Judgment and things of that nature, that are very powerful. We have the two snakes. They're come together. They're bound together with the, oh, there's a name for that. Is it a catechus? I'm sure that I am wrong about it, but let me pull the Two of Cups up. They're supporting each other in an infinity shape. They lay on the warm sand at night underneath a plethora of stars. Their tongues are interlocked and tangled in a knot and wrapped around a helix lying headed pendant representing strength and health. The two chalices toast them. There's definitely a sexual energy that's here. And again, it's a very powerful, this isn't a soft Two of Cups. This is a very strong, when these two opposite creatures, we have the black and the white here, when they're coming together, there is a strength and a power to that union that I think you don't usually see. Here we have the Three of Cups. Definitely not something we would normally see visually. This is probably one of my least favorites in that it doesn't feel quite the same as the rest of the deck, I guess. I don't know. Something about this stands out. Although there's all different styles. I mean, they're all obviously black and white, but there are a variety of styles to it. So, but you certainly, I think we're trained to see birds and think air. But there is this idea of blackbirds. They are Trinity. They're wearing bone helmets to represent their belonging to a group, pack, or coven. So this is that idea of group and coming together in sameness and being strengthened because of this coming together. I'm not sure this is my favorite of the cards, but it certainly works. Oh. Here we have the Four of Cups, the Wandering Mind. So at least he doesn't look bored. He's just like got a lot, he's thinking of a lot of things. Is he going to go, and he looks like he's gazing at this crystal, like he could be even scrying, that kind of energy. So you definitely have the traditional Four of Cups way that the symbols are set up, which is kind of a little bit odd just because you don't really always see that, as you do. Some of them are very similar, like the Three of Swords and things, but at least I don't think he looks bored. He's just stable. He's calm and he's relaxed and he's looking in the crystal ball, which I see this as stable emotions. It's kind of weird to see the book. Obviously, again, the juxtaposition of human things with animal always throws me off a little bit. But at least I'm glad that he doesn't look bored. He just looks like he's being very reflective because his emotions are stable. Here we have the Five of Cups. Obviously, with the spilt and the upright cups, it works. It's definitely a Five of Cups and noticeable as such. Here we have the Six of Cups as the reuniting water lily. So apparently these two hippopotamuses are being reunited, remembering when they were little hippos, I suppose. But it's a sweet image. Here we have a Seven of Cups, the tentacles of illusion. So that all, same. It's a very, very traditional Seven of Cups. Make sure that you're reaching for what is real and important to you and not what is an illusion. Love this Eight of Cups with the high door, that idea of kind of going off. We often see somebody climbing up towards the moon. It is that sort of upward and inward kind of card journey. Now, I'm not generally a fan of cups being spilled over or broken like in the Wild Unknown. These are fine for me because it's almost just like, okay, that time is past and now it's sort of moving upward. So I'm curious if if he talks about in the Eight of Cups, because we do see writing on the stairs. Yeah, so it doesn't look like he talks about what that is, which I would like. Obviously, we can message him and he might talk about it in some of his stuff, but I'm just one of those people that like to, if there's references like that, I like to be able to access what that stands for. So I'll have to definitely find out about that and a couple other ones. Here we have the Nine of Cups, the content. He's got his mouth full of fish. He is happy. All right, this is a one wish fulfilled pelican. I love it. The Ten of Cups, the joyous sky. Now, how beautiful. It's very surrealistic, right? With the clouds and the... of course, this could be a mist rolled over the top of water, but it has that very surrealistic feeling of just joyousness. It's a whole pod of whales. So, I mean, it works beautifully. Here we have the beautiful Page of Cups, the Sister of Roses. Beautiful Knight of Cups, Brother of the Wild. This is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. This is so beautiful. This Queen of Cups, I mean, you would, in some ways you would think, okay, this could be the Queen of Pentacles because it's bare. But there is something so sweet and so nurturing here. The Mother of Crystals. It's just beautiful. And the King of Cups, the Chief Eagle. So again, you definitely don't get the sense that he just kept water animals with water and air animals with air. He's just going with the images that, for him, reflect those particular cards. That brings us to the last suit of the Pentacles. Beautiful Two of Pentacles. The Juggling Snake. Very strange Three of Pentacles. The Three Wise Masters. Obviously, he's gonna learn from these masters, but it's very strange because it looks like mounted heads on top of human beings in robes or something. But you know, it works for what it is. Not my absolute favorite. The Four of Pentacles, Prudent Mountain Goat. See, I love this, calling him prudent. It's not the time for him to be running around spending resources, but being wise and prudent about it. That works really well for me. Oh, now this is so sad. I don't even like to look at this picture, to be honest. The Five of Pentacles is hardship. But look at, they are together. It's so funny, isn't it? Because we can look at... there's a lot of decks with the Five of Pentacles where you've got somebody who's laying shivering in the cold on the ground, like the Jeopardias, a Five of Pentacles, or somebody who's a crippled and in rags. Like, we can see this in humans, but to see this in animals is sometimes, for me, more heartbreaking. But I feel like the sky is about to open up and water is about to pour down. If they can just hold on a little bit longer, they're going to be able to survive. Here we have the Six of Pentacles, the Sacred White. See, even with my glasses, scalable. And once I know it, then I know it. I don't have to worry about it anymore, right? So we have that sense of balance and that sense of sharing, and that we often see with the Six of Pentacles. I already talked about this. I think it's fantastic. I love this spider as the Eight of Pentacles. I think it's just awesome. There is that sense of patience and mastery and kind of creating her domain, even though it's a little difficult one for the creatures caught in the net. Beautiful, beautiful Nine of Pentacles, Tranquil Spotted Deer. The Ten of Pentacles, the Oyster of I have to look that one up. We obviously have the reference here. Oops. What are we in? We're in Pentacles. Metatron. Yeah, so this has very much this idea of success. Everything's, you know, the way it should be. It's the Tree of Life that's fully activated and engaged. We've got the Pearl and the Oyster, so it works really well, I think, for the Ten of Pentacles. Here we have the Page of Pentacles, the Butterfly, looks like Silver Vixen, Snow Vixen. the Knight of Pentacles, the Aztec Warrior Hawk. Definitely movement there. The Queen of Pentacles with the Indian Henna Mother, and then the King of Pentacles, the Tiger of Roses. The quartz are interesting. I will definitely want to take the quartz all out and look at them to see, you know, how they are. For me, the quartz are one of the suits that are the least need for specific imagery or anything. I do have a way in which I read the court cards, and the images are less important to me than other parts of the deck. There doesn't seem to be a cohesiveness to like what animals are used, but that's across the board, so it's not just uneven in that way. So all in all, I'm actually really happy with this. There are definitely, you know, a couple cards. That one's a little bit, doesn't quite fit for me with the Three of Cups because it feels more like, say, the Five of Swords or something like that. But I know that once I sit down and read the guidebook, and they all, even the ones that I'm kind of like, they all end up, that's probably my least favorite, just because there's something so strange about it. Even though, again, I get the idea of working with somebody and learning from somebody. It's very strange with that juxtaposition of animal heads and this elongated, like, people in robes. But nothing here is distractive to me to the point of some cards, such as, say, the Hierophant and the Marielle, or again, I know I've said it a million times, but the Ten of Swords and the Wild Unknown. Those are difficult cards for me in decks that I consider really powerful and ones that I love to use. So I'm really pleased with that, because I feel like this is a deck that I can really work with and work around a couple of the things that may be different in the way that I see the cards. So let's just see. These are definitely going to be difficult to shuffle for those with small hands. Always remember with big decks that you can shuffle sideways. Again, I know not everybody riffle shuffles, but if you're a riffle shuffler, and again, I always have to caution, do as I say, not as I do. You are technically not supposed to riffle shuffle gilded edges. I riffle shuffle all of my gilded decks because of this. Do you see how wonderful of a mix that you get and how a randomness that you get out of a riffle shuffle? That's why I love to riffle shuffle. I don't consider it disrespectful. Disrespect for me is an action of intention, and so I am very respectful of my cards. But it is something that I do. But be aware that if you have a gilded deck and you riffle shuffle, you will get a more aged look to your gilding faster than someone who overhand shuffles. And that is something I'm perfectly okay with, because it's just a deck that's been used, which is what my collection's about. So yeah, these shuffle really well, other than the fact, obviously, that they are large. I have what I consider to be long fingers for a female, and this is certainly stretching my ability to overhand shuffle, although as you can see, I can. It's actually, this one to me is easier to riffle shuffle because you can do the corners like that. Okay, I've taken a minute to sort of look through and kind of get a feel for things myself, because this is a deck, you know, that I'm really curious about. I also pulled some cards for me. Again, I feel like this is a deck I'm going to be personally working with a lot, so I wanted to have a moment and pull through, you know, to do the first pull of cards for myself. Whenever the Queen of Swords comes up in a first reading for me of a deck, that's like a 2 thumbs up from the universe. So that was really powerful. I've made a couple piles here to sort of sort through things that have popped to me, right? So one of the things that I have a difficulty with in some other decks is animal cards, not these, But cards, you know, like this, that are similar to the Animal Spirit Oracle deck by Colette Baron Reed, where we do have a lot of sort of these sort of headdressy kinds of things, human headdresses and earrings and nose rings on animals. It's not always my favorite factor in an animal deck, and especially in a deck where you have such powerful cards. Like these cards to me, like take my breath away, like whoa, right? But they're trying to describe a different energy than I think most of these are court cards. Yeah. Well, not all of them, but most of these are court cards. And so it's a different energy than what the court cards are trying to do. And you can really feel that. And so that, when it's used in such a way to create that sort of impact where you want the impact, I think it's completely workable there. But some of them are just like this, that literally like take my breath away about how powerful. I don't think I've ever seen a more powerful Eight of Swords, and I absolutely love it. The other thing that I had these out for, was not really just for that, but was that this deck definitely challenges our conceptions of what animals should go in what suits. And at first look, that can be disconcerting, right? We, in a modern sense, have really said, okay, you know, birds are for swords, and tigers and foxes and things like that are for wands, and you know, animal or seals or some kind of water animals are only for cups, and so on and so forth, right? We get that, you get the sense. That's kind of easy, right? That's something that's been added in. The original tarot decks did not have those associations. Those are associations that we have layered in, and certainly any animal, whatever quality that the creator's looking for, can stand in for that energy. And so I think in some ways this challenges, especially for myself, a little bit of that laziness of seeing a bird and thinking swords and not going deeper than that. So I actually appreciate that, because if I were to see this and know it was a queen, I would in my head probably instantly go to the Queen of Swords, simply because it's an owl. And yet there is a something really powerful here, especially when you read the guidebook, that this represents the Queen of Wands very well, or that a tiger has to be the King of Wands instead of the King of Pentacles, and so on and so forth. This idea of challenging perhaps the easy nature of just sort of clumping animals in certain ways. And so I think that what I like is that he's done it across the board. He doesn't have anything that's just one suit is this and one suit is that. All of the animals can show up in any of the suits in ways in which it makes sense for that particular vision of that card. And so I think that that's a good thing. I think challenging things that we get maybe a little bit too easy with, and we don't look deeper into some of the meanings, is a positive thing. So that was one thing. Again, powerful. The ones that were probably the most difficult cards for me, again, Ten of Swords, simply because I don't read the Ten of Swords this way, but I can work with this, as I already said, so I'm not going to repeat myself. This is the saddest card, right, to look at. It's really difficult. I already mentioned, I think we have an easier time seeing people in distress than we do, at least for myself, than seeing animals in distress. But I do like that the clouds are parting, and or if it's in a deserty theme, I haven't read this yet, if it's in a desolation, you know, the water is about to come down. So, you know, it certainly reads the Five of Pentacles. It's just a difficult one because it's very hard for some people, including myself, to see distressed animals. But distress and difficulties like this happen in the natural world. Actually really love this one for the Nine of Swords. This one is difficult, yet when you read the guidebook it makes a lot of sense, whereas this is probably, of all of the cards, my least favorite, simply because it just has this weird I keep thinking of being like in Sabrina or something, and that was the Sabrina's cat, like walked into this other dimension where these, you know, animal-headed wizards here are gonna teach him some lessons, which still work for the Three of Pentacles, right? But it's just kind of it's one of those odd ones that's just like, oh, okay, that's a little bit odd. And again, for me, the Three of Cups, this is challenging because it looks a little bit more combative for me than the Three of Cups might be. But I need to sit down and read the guidebooks, because all of the ones that I've been challenged by do make sense to me when reading his vision for it. So yeah, so this is kind of what I do. So a lot of times behind the scenes, when I'm processing something that, like the Marielle or like some of these other really powerful decks that you know you really want to work with, it's worth the work, right? To separate out, to think about, to see how are you going to, if the deck is worth it for you, how are you going to work through that and manifest knowledge and a connection with the deck so that you can kind of get to the root of things. And I definitely 100% think this is, for me, a deck worth taking the time to sort those types of things out, because in the end, there's always going to be cards in which you have to kind of find the creator's voice in it, so you can connect with their voice, because this isn't a deck that I created to be my perfect expression of a tarot deck. This is somebody else's, and so there always are going to be those moments where you're like, okay, not sure where you're going there with that, but let's see where are you going with that, so that we can meet in the middle and I can learn something from that experience. That's the joy of working with tarot decks. So really pleased again with this Queen of Swords showing up for me in a first pull. That's definitely a good sign for me. Actually, we have some extra cards to look at. I'm going to do that really quickly. I know this is long. I'm not sure how I'm going to approach it. I'm probably going to split it. But it's a big deck with a lot going on here. Okay, so here we have Caution, the Heedful Mouse. Too cute. I mean, his artwork is amazing. I can just tell you that. Here we have the Ojibwe Catcher, the Shadow Dream Catcher. I do like that he's specified, you know, obviously Native American or First Nation tribes can be very different depending on what specific tribe. So I thought it was kind of interesting that it was Ojibwe, which is where my family connection would be too. But you have sort of the Shadow Catcher here. We have Expansion, the Shedding Snake, which is gorgeous. You know, this idea of shedding your skin and becoming something larger and better and new life. The Heart of Goliath. This card is no more than the biggest hug and thank you from my heart to yours, no matter where you are in the world. Thank you. So I think that's really sweet. Here we obviously saw what was on the outside of the box, the Karmic Release, the Sacred Karmic Deer. Powerful imagery. El Nature, the Seed of Life. This is gorgeous. I really like this idea of a wild seed. That would be one that I would be tempted to put in. Sacred Fire, the Rebirthing Bonfire. We have the Karmic Soul, Tribe. So we have this idea of family, which is beautiful with this baby whale and this large whale. I mean, that's gorgeous. The Hidden Inner Strength, the Shadow Cat, which is, I mean, amazing. I love that one. Masks, the Hidden Wolf, the wolf in sheep's clothing that you would see. The Shadow Self, the Dark Inner Swamp. This one doesn't have a name, just kind of, you know, totem. It has that sort of totemy, primal kind of feel to it. The Shaman, the Medicine Healer is beautiful. The Starseed. The Sage. is really beautiful, just in terms of purifying and such. And then the yes and the no. So some of these are really gorgeous. Again, I don't really see myself putting these in. If I were to put any in, I do like this is just gorgeous. I do like the idea of caution, but we do have caution cards, but I still like that. I love a lot of the ideas behind them. The nature card, I love. We have a lot of fire already. I love this inner strength. The shadow shelf is cool. Again, I think we have cards like that. The shaman is gorgeous, depending on how, you know, what you're doing. I love this sage image. So I'm tempted with these, but again, I don't generally do that, so I probably won't. But I might try it and just see, or there might be certain cases in which I will put one of these concepts in, shuffle, and then see what card is on either side. And that could be a way to use these. So if I really need to work on some cleansing, I might put this into the deck, shuffle it, find out what's on either side, and get that message. Same thing with the shaman. If I want to get in touch with that energy, shuffle that in with intention, and then pull the cards around it for a particular reading. So let me just give you an example of how you might, you know, use the cards in that way, which I think could be quite powerful. I find it's actually easier to side shuffle these than it is to overhand, just again because they are large, but it feels right for them to be large. Like I think they're supposed to be large, you know what I'm saying? It's like the Marielle or the Margaret Peterson, where that sense that it's not supposed to be something small. So I'm not going to go through too much shuffling here, but you would just go through, shuffle, right? And then you just slide your way through. And one of the nice things about the gloss is that they are very shuffly or slidey. So then you would pull cards on either side. Sorry, I didn't realize I was so zoomed in. But there we go, they fit. So then I would find the shaman card and get the card on either side and get a message that was from that sort of ancestral shamanic energy message from the cards on either side. That would be a wonderful way that I could see myself working with those extra cards. So I just wanted to show you that. In terms of spreads and things, I'm really not going to go any further. I know this is way, you know, longer than I'm even going to know what to do with as it is. I would be using this mostly for myself, and except for, again, I can see some exceptions or certain people that I might, or certain types of readings. But for the most part, I would see this as something I would be using for myself. As a general rule for myself, I'm generally pulling 3 cards and then maybe a do and a don't. So these certainly, the size doesn't keep you from doing something like that. That's something that I would very commonly do for myself. I think that a Celtic cross, obviously you would need a much larger space than I have access to. I think doing, I know I'm using the same cards, and we should try to get some other ones out there visually. But you could certainly do a elemental and do fire, air, water, and earth, and that would be really beautiful. And then you could pull one for the soul or the heart of a situation. But I think you would have to obviously have a very large space in order to do a larger reading just because of the size. And I think that's okay, because especially for myself, because I'm not tending to do readings for myself that are huge, and so I think this will work really well. And if it is, it's for myself and I can sit on the floor and do it, whereas obviously reading for others I have to fit into the camera. So there we have it. I hope this has been helpful. This is a deck from Australia. So those of us who live on the stateside, I know that this can be pricey. Shipping can be pricey over there as well, and so I hope that this has been helpful for you to be able to see that whether this is something that's going to resonate with you or not. Thank you to Goliath for sending me this deck to look at. I have a feeling that this is going to actually be quite a powerful one. And I know what's going to happen. This is what happened with me. You know, the Bohemian Gothic Tarot, which is one of my favorites. There's one card in there that's, you know, there's always that one card that you're like, you know, not my favorite. And that was the Seven of Wands, which is the little demon in a tower. And he became my favorite card. It showed up all of the time, and we became BFFs. And it's, to this day, one of my favorite cards in the deck. And it was that one card that was like, So I have a feeling that the same thing is going to happen with this one. I'm just really excited to work with this and see where this takes me again in my personal practice with tarot. I think that this could be a real powerful one. So I hope that you've enjoyed this, regardless of length, and I will talk to you all later.